Welcome back to TribPreps. Fifth week of the Wisconsin high school football season is in the books, and we're here to wrap it up alongside sports editor Todd Sommerfeld and sports reporter James Crosse. I'm Andrew Polk. We'll start with the scores. Last night in 8-man football, DeSoto 52, Wisconsin Heights 13. And then in the MVC tonight, a game that James was at, Baraboo over Central 15-7. I was at Onalaska and Logan tonight, Hilltoppers 42, Rangers 18. And Holman got its first win of the year, 34-7 over Toma. Reedsburg 20, Sparta 13. And then in the Cooley Conference, a game Todd was at, West Salem 55, Altoona 12. GET goes 2 in a row, 52-7 over Viroqua. Aquinas, a shutout of Black River Falls, 52-0. And Westby also a shutout, 40-0 over Arcadia. In the Scenic Bluffs, those top two teams keep rolling. Bangor 43-0 over Brookwood. Cashton 59, Necedah 0. Out in the Dairyland, Blair Taylor 43, Whitehall 20. CFC 40, Melmin 22. And in the SWC, Prairie du Chien 23, Platteville 14. Onalaska Luther in a non-conference mashup beat Wazeeka Steuben Seneca 39-0. And then across the river in Minnesota, La Crescent Hoka 2 in a row for the Lancers, 28-7 over Lake City. And Caledonia 21-0 over Dover Iota. We'll start with you, James. You were out at Baraboo and Central. And the Riverhawks, they kept it close, but couldn't finish it down the stretch.
Yeah, this was a game that they'll definitely want to have back. They forced 5 turnovers.
It gives them at least 2 of those.
Yeah.
After the Reedsburg game.
Yeah, and this is a team, and I talked about it a little bit earlier with you guys, like this defense is really, really solid. They've got a lot of great pieces. Boston Brindley had 2 interceptions again tonight. We kind of talked about, me and Todd, about Hardy, the linebacker, and just what he brings to that team in terms of not just a great playmaker, but great sort of leadership that they need. This game ultimately, though, I mean, in part, the turnovers by Baraboo helped them. At one point, they fumbled close to the goal line. It pinned Central. They were at UWL, yes. But it pinned Central to their own 2. They had Jude Alvarado as their quarterback, as Mason Elston was still out.
Yeah,
kind of bobbled.
We thought he was going to play.
Yeah, we thought he would play. Yeah. He kind of bobbles the snap and ultimately goes down for a safety that put Baraboo up. They get back the ball with about 2 minutes left. Do the Riverhawks, they throw 1 pick that leads to Baraboo scoring, but it's still an 8-point game because they missed the PAT. And then they throw another pick, and this one was just like the Reedsburg game, one that kind of came down to controversial circumstance because Central wanted a pass interference call on the interception, but they didn't get one.
Okay. And what was the thoughts from Mitch Olson after the game when you talked with him?
Just really frustrated. You can tell that not even necessarily with the loss, but just how they've lost. This is their 3rd 1-score loss in the last 4 games. Obviously, they had the blowout loss to Onalaska, but that's just top-level competition. And these are, the Reedsburg game, the Baraboo game, those are games that they really, if things go 1 or 2 ways, which is why those calls in both those games feel like they mean so much, is because they go 1 or 2 other ways, and you're looking at a team that might be sitting at 500 or something. But this is a team that, again, with the defense they have, they can really make some things happen. It's just a matter of getting Mason back at quarterback and getting him healthy.
Right, and the defense was good against Onalaska last week. I know I kind of stressed that when we chatted after the game, but Onalaska had a tough time running against that team. There's certainly reason to believe that Central can still put something together with that defense if they can just get something going offensively.
The one question mark I think I'd have with that defense for Central is giving up the big plays. Baraboo was able to get the run game going, in part by giving up, some of those, getting those short yardage, 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, but the running back for Baraboo, Ben Burgess, 160 yards on just 12 rushes because he had a few breakaway runs, and that really helped maybe not give any room for comfort in a game that was one score all the way, but gave them a little bit of breathing room on some of these drives.
Right, and I guess the silver lining is the 2 picks for Brindley, and I think that might be 6 for him now in the season. He's inching toward that school record that he was 1 short of last year. So
yeah, he had a bunch last year too.
that'll be something to watch
Interception
out.
machine.
Right. All right, Todd, a big win for West Salem. What did you see out of the Panthers tonight?
I saw a really good team. A team that could throw the ball, a team that could run the ball. They had a kickoff return, they had an interception, they recovered a fumble, blocked a punt. It wasn't a matter of, I think, them just complete. I mean, they overwhelmed a lesser team tonight, which is what you have to go out there and do. And I think what they showed, they didn't have to ride any 1 or any 2 people throughout this game. They had a bunch of different guys score. Luke Knoll had 3 touchdowns, but he carried 10 times for 41 yards. They didn't just say, all right, we're just going to give it to Knoll and let him go. There were 3 short touchdowns. Chris Calico had a short touchdown run, had a kickoff return, 90-yard kickoff return, if I remember right on the yardage, for a touchdown. They scored right away, and then Altoona ran the kickoff back. And I didn't see, there was no semblance of panic. Everybody was just walking around on the sideline. They just gave up a kickoff return. Nobody was happy about it, but nobody was yelling about anything. They were calm. This is a team that is good, knows it's good, and knows kind of when to, I guess, let that release out. They get excited when they score, but they know they're capable of doing that. They're just kind of living up to their own expectations. One of the things I really liked, Brett McConkey tonight was 10 out of 12, 261 yards. So they didn't throw it a ton, but they threw it more than they have been, and completed a high percentage. He had 1 interception and 1 incomplete pass. They hit some big ones. Brennan Kennedy had 5 catches for 148 yards, had a really nice catch. Ended up being a 62-yard touchdown. I think it was about the 35-yard line or so he caught it, went up with a defender and won the ball. And then took off untouched the rest of the way. Also had a nice crossing pattern that led to a big gain at one point, and had a catch at the end of the half that he just went down just before the goal line. Otherwise, they would have had another touchdown. But again, we know West Salem is a good team, but they really went out and showed it tonight by dominating a game that it needed to dominate. And I think the best way we can explain where West Salem is right now,
That was my next question.
started the season 14-13 loss to Onalaska. And I still think this team is really, that's still driving this team, because that's a game they could have won. Right. And they know they could have won it, but it just didn't work out. Since then, they've outscored their opponents 183-27. So now they're going ahead and doing what they need to do. And this is a team, these are a bunch of players that have been on a good team before. The team was good last year in the MVC. Now they go to the Cooley. Everybody's talking about the last week of the season when we get our West Salem Aquinas game, which is fair. It's also a team that now has to turn around and play GET next week. And GET is a team that's been getting better every week. So, and that's a good rivalry game. No matter what conference West Salem has been in over the years, they always have the GET game, and it always ends up being a really good matchup. So I have a feeling that next week West Salem will go and put its best foot forward and take care of business. But the good thing is I think no matter what happens, they're going to get a challenge, and that's something that this team needs right now. Kind of going down to the stretch, outscoring their opponents by 160 in the last 4 weeks. They haven't been pushed too hard, so maybe they'll get pushed by GET next week. But if they play like they did today, it's going to be tough for anybody to push them.
Yeah, you got to throw the record out the window with GET. That's probably one of the better 2 and 3 teams out there.
Good competition, and has hung with some good teams. So.
Yep. Well, I was at.
Tell us about your game, because that was tight until the end.
Yeah, the score doesn't tell the whole story. It ended up being 42-18, but it was 20-18 with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. So, well, first of all, Logan scored against Onalaska. The shutout streak was over, and And I think that almost helped Onalaska kind of settle in. I think talking with Tom Yashinsky after the game, they knew it was going to end at some point, and they knew that someone was going to be able to score on them. And Logan, they slowed things down big time. They were taking every single second of the play clock throughout the whole first half and even into the third quarter as well. And it kind of lulled Anna to sleep for a little bit there, and
Smart.
they kept it close. And credit to Casey Noble and the rushing stats, they weren't really there for Logan. 32 attempts for 132 yards. We've seen Johnny Lever and Eli Reynolds have a better output than that, but a close game at halftime, a close game at the end of the third quarter. It came down to a crucial fumble on a muffed punt at midfield that gave Onalaska the ball back after they went 3 and out following a Logan touchdown. And after that, Anna scored 3 times. Logan turned it over on downs 3 times, and that was the story for the Hilltoppers on the ground. Brady Kuhn again, a great game. 19 carries, 128 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So
he's a really good running back. But this kind of seems like a little bit of a breakout game for him.
It does.
Because he hasn't been the guy. I saw him. I've seen him a couple of times this year, and against Central, every yard was tough when they played last week. And he's a guy that's been able to break free in the past and hit some of those big runs. Very reliable back. But I think it's good for Onalaska to see him come and have a game like this, finally get that 130-yard game and get in the end zone a few times. I think that's big for them going forward.
Yeah, and from his perspective after the game, he said the offensive line was really clicking. I wouldn't call it hard running tonight. He was hitting some big holes and getting some chunk yardage. So it was a nice performance by him, and Adam skipped in a quarterback, just no mistakes, and made passes when he needed to. 11 for 16, and
how many of those went to Odom?
4.
Okay,
4 or 5, I think.
I'm still waiting for that Mickey Odom breakout game.
Yeah, he had one play
at some point. I mean,
one play for about 30 yards.
He's been hitting plays here and there, but I'm just waiting for that monster game, because it's coming, and whatever defense is on the other side of the ball isn't going to be able to do anything to stop it. It's just, he's a special talent. He can make cuts that nobody else around here can make. So again, they obviously haven't needed it, getting to this point undefeated and winning a lot of those games handily and pulling away from Logan tonight. But keep that in mind that it's coming.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned in the Cooley, everyone looking forward to that Aquinas-West Salem matchup at the end of the year. But I was surprised when looking at the standings in the MVC. So it's Onalaska is 3-0. The other 2 3-0 teams, Baraboo and Reedsburg, the newer teams to the conference.
Mm.
And they're still coming up for Onalaska. So Onalaska's got, the 2 best teams, at least by record, still to go in the conference coming up, and that's in the next few weeks. So Onalaska, doesn't get a lot easier from here.
Yeah.
And they Logan gave them a run for their money tonight until late.
So it's probably good that they got a run for the money tonight, because next week is Reedsburg. That's 2 overall unbeaten teams. Baraboo at least has a loss out of conference, but this is the one that everybody will be looking at as who's taking control of the MVC in this one. So it's probably good for Onalaska to at least get pushed this week.
For sure, and that was the message after the game from Yashinsky and also a couple of the players as well. And in looking at the scores around the area, Todd, anything jump out at you?
La Crosse, man. La Crosse and Holcott.
Yeah.
2 wins in a row.
Yeah.
First time in 7 years that's happened, because they took a couple off in there.
That was a place that when I was there last week was so excited for that win, and it was a great atmosphere to be in.
Yeah.
I wonder what they figured out what 1 win after 5 years feels like. Does it diminish a second one the week after?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess my guess is it's going to keep building with every win they get.
Yeah.
I would say Caledonia getting the shutout, playing Caledonia defense, and I think they only had about 200 yards in the game, so it's not like they just went up, but they dominated defensively, and are looking like Caledonia again, so that's good. Cashton Bangor still rolling, as you said, going out and doing what we expect them to do.
Mm-hmm.
CFC kind of a surprise team at this point, I think. Impressed that Sparta hung with Reedsburg like that, 20-13 game for them. And congratulations to Holman, getting off the schneid and getting that win. Not only just getting the win, but scoring 34 points.
Yeah.
And they rushed for 430 yards.
Mhm.
That's what Holman does when, you know, it's winning games. Not 430, but they'll run for 300 yards a night when they're having a good season. So kind of a breakout performance for them. So we'll see what that can turn into. They've had to play a really tough schedule to this point. Not a complete excuse for the record, because they've been getting shut out.
Yeah.
So you know, at least getting the ball rolling tonight. So we'll see where it can take them.
Yep.
So,
And like we said, it sets up some big matchups next week with Onalaska hosting Reedsburg, and then Bangor and Cashin as well, 2 undefeated teams in the area. So something to look forward to in week 6.
absolutely.
All right, thank you for tuning in, and thanks for your support of local journalism. And you can keep supporting us by visiting lacrossetribune.com. We've got game stories, photos, videos from the 3 games we were at tonight, roundups from everywhere else, and that all gets collected into little collections you can view in the morning. And anytime you log on to lacrossetribune.com, just toggle to the sports tab, and there'll be something there about high school sports that you can read about. So again, thanks for tuning in, and come on back for week 6 next week.